let's talk shadow people. Now, shadow people aren't necessarily negative, but they can be really unnerving. So before I go any further, let me know in the comments if you've ever seen a shadow person. Now, I'm about to tell you 4 ways and how to protect yourself from shadow entities, shadow beings. Number 1 is cleanse your space. I feel often dragon's blood works really well for this, but a mixture of sage and rosemary is perfect. Please remember that you keep the windows open, because the last thing you want to do is smoke cleanse your space and trap the spirit in, because it will just piss it off. Also, part 2 to cleansing your space: declutter. If you have a cluttered space, you're just going to attract negative entities anyway. Number 2, you want to cleanse yourself, and there's lots of ways that you can do that. You can do herbal bath cleanses, you can take herbal showers, you can smoke cleanse yourself. There's a whole ton of ideas around that, so make sure you check out the Dark Femme Society Facebook to find out more information. Protection and wards. So that could be symbols, that could be jewelry, that could be crystals. There's lots and lots of things that you can do to protect yourself energetically. And number 3, raise your vibrations. This does not mean that you have to be happy 24/7, because quite frankly, that is impossible. This means that if you are in a negative state, i.e. you're depressed, or you have a drug addiction or alcohol addiction or anything like that, you are more prone to any form of negative entity attaching itself to you. So really, my biggest tip there is to take more self-care. And if you don't practice self-care, today is the sign that you need to start doing it.
Shadow men. We all heard of them. We all heard stories of the Hat Man. Witches themselves tend to see these shadow men anytime it is dark. But what do they actually do? Shadow people are some of the most feared spirits, and for good reason. They're dark, fast, and hardly ever communicate. Most sightings happen in the corner of your eye, just barely out of your vision. They will linger like silhouettes, just watching. They're not confirmed to be human spirits. Some believe them to be interdimensional beings. Others think they are remnants of nightmares leaking into our world. People who see them often report sudden chills, sleep paralysis, and the feeling of being watched when no one is there. They rarely interact, but when they do, it's usually with fear. If you ever felt someone standing over you in bed, but when you open your eyes, nobody's there, don't be so sure. If you want to hear more about all these different kinds of spirits, I will have a longer video on the YT, and let me know what you think, or if you've experienced them. Maybe it'll make it into the video. Love you.
So I posted a video yesterday about the shadow person that has been following me around. And I had at least 10 fucking people in my comment section telling me that, oh, sounds like you have a spirit husband. What the fuck is a spirit husband? And how the fuck do I go about getting a motherfucking divorce? Because what? Listen, in all seriousness, I think that's a very interesting conclusion. That's an interesting theory, because never once, see, this is why I like TikTok. This is why I just record myself talking and post, because I love to get other people's like insights, right? So never once did it cross my mind, or did I make the connection in my head, that this thing tends to act up the most when there are males around me. And every single male that I was around that thing like showed itself to ended up not being a fucking nice person. So that is fucking crazy. I love TikTok. I love TikTok. So that first time that it showed itself, when I was arguing with my boyfriend in the hallway, yeah, and we broke up. It turns out like that was just not a nice dude. I won't get too into it, but he was doing very bad things behind my back that I didn't know, and it worse than cheating. We'll just say that. And then the second time, when I had my tattoo artist over staying on the couch, okay, years later down the line, I was speaking to a mutual friend that me and him had, and I hadn't heard from him in a while, and I asked him, like, hey, what's up with Ricky? That's what I'll call him for the story. What's up with Ricky? She went on to tell me this crazy ass story about he started using again, and pretty much, long story short, took a pew and like held his girlfriend and his child hostage. I guess she was going to pick the baby up from a visit, and he refused to give the baby back, and it was a whole big fucking thing. So yeah, maybe it saw that in him and didn't want me around it. That's why it was threatening him when he was in the house. And now I'm worried. I'm thinking, because I told you I had company over the other night, and my tongs flew off the stove. It's showing itself again. It showed itself to him. I didn't actually see it, but I didn't see the figure, but I saw the tongs flying off the stove. And it showed itself to him. He saw it from the corner of his eye standing in my kitchen. But now I'm wondering, like, what the fuck? What is up with this dude now? Do I need to be worried about him? So I'm going to be doing my research on this motherfucker now. The whole spirit husband thing is starting to trip me out now, because I'm like, that is actually making a lot of fucking sense. I need someone to come on here and tell me more. Can someone that actually knows about this stuff, like, do a quick little video for me and explain it and, like, tag me in it? Because I went on Google and it's giving conflicting answers. You know, some of the answers are like, oh, you know, it's a good entity. It's there just to protect you. And then some of the other answers are like, no, this is a bad entity and it's there to cause chaos and it's, like, latched on you and it's not... I don't know. So, like, I'm hoping someone that actually knows a lot about this shit. Because I'm a witch, but I don't fucking know everything. I don't know anything about this kind of stuff. So, please, help me out. I don't feel threatened by it. I've never once felt threatened by it. It startles me. It scares me because it's a... You know, when it shows itself as an apparition, it's fucking scary. But I've never felt threatened by it. Now my brain is going.
We've heard a lot about shadow people. What are they? I've run into a lot of these, interestingly, from a diverse cross-section of countries and places and people. Christians, Buddhists, Hindus, Sikhs. Doesn't seem to matter what your belief system is. Shadow people affect everybody. But what are they? You'll read a lot on the internet about shadow people, and there's so many varying opinions of what they are. And I'm not going to tell you that I definitively know exactly what they are, because none of us do. We're taking information that we're getting from others, so people like our guides, things like that, and it's kind of an amalgamation of information. One thing that pretty much everyone can agree on is they are not from our dimension. They are also not dead people. They are never good. Those are the three things that we can all agree on across the board. So shadow people are most often drawn to imbalance. Praying does nothing. Doesn't remove them. Doesn't matter what faith you are. Your belief system has no effect on them whatsoever. They most often are visible at night, though they can be visible during the day. They've been described as darker than shadows and darker than black. They most often follow an outline of a very tall man with broad shoulders wearing a wide-brimmed black hat. Most people don't report seeing their eyes. I've never seen the eyes of a shadow person. It's almost like they're made out of a really dense smoke, darker than the rest of the room. Children in particular are bothered by them, but what are they? Again, I'm not an expert. I can only tell you what my guide has said and what most people commonly believe. It's believed that these are interdimensional beings, so I realize how utterly insane that sounds, but here we go. Interdimensional beings that often are watchers. Not saying that they don't interact with the living. They definitely interact with the living. It's almost like they bring chaos and they want to see how we deal with it. They can physically harm us. They can get in our heads. They can impact our surroundings. Often they cannot touch us though. They don't seem to be able to physically touch us, but they can definitely screw with our surroundings. They can cause accidents. They can create dark thoughts, up to and including suicide. Their entire purpose is chaos and fear. While they create those things in people, they also feed off them. So it's a mute cycle of harassment, fear, and food. Harassment, fear, and food. They're also almost impossible to get rid of. It's like they have permission to be here. This is the part I've never understood, but we really can't impact them. We can make it so that our environment isn't a place that's comfortable for them, but we can't remove them. That part I've never understood. My guide has always maintained that they're just part of life. So we can protect ourselves against them, but I see them almost as often as I see the dead in clients. Most often, it's dead people that are wreaking havoc, people that should have been crossed but haven't. Right below those, like, concentration of phone calls would be shadow people and issues that they're causing. The good news is they don't generally follow people. They can often be associated with a place, meaning that if you leave that place, they don't generally follow you. That doesn't mean that's always the case, but it is often the case that if you're in a home that has them moving, oftentimes you won't have them in your new place, which means they aren't necessarily connected to people. They're most often connected to places. I wish I could tell you that we knew exactly what they are, but anybody who tells you that they know exactly what they are is lying. None of us know what they are, but they're here. They're part of life. They aren't good. They harass children, people who don't have a very strong degree of control over their own lives, what's going on in their lives. They create fear and chaos. They feed off those things. They're not going anywhere.
Do y'all have time for another creepy ass story? Excuse my excitement, my rapid speed of talking, and my bulging eyes. It should just happen last night. I'm still a little antsy. It's gonna be a long story, so I'm just gonna jump right in. I want to get this done in one part. So not too long ago, I had posted a video about the first time I had like actually visually seen a fucking apparition or a shadow thing, like for the first time ever in my life. I said it happened in San Diego. Well, that wasn't correct, but that's gonna be why I'm telling you this is gonna be relevant to the story later. You're gonna realize, and that is how often this type of creepy stuff happens to me, that it's become mundane to me. It's like when you go and brush your teeth. It's something you do, but like it's something that happens every day, but you don't talk about it. You don't think about it. This is how this shit has become for me. I am like a beacon for this type of energy, these type of things happening to me. So I forget stuff all the time, and then I'm fucking triggered, like I was triggered last night. So in 2016, me and my boyfriend at that time had decided to move in together in these apartments in Lancaster, California. So we move in, everything is fine for the first 2 months, and then after those 2 months, I one day just suddenly feel like I'm being watched, and this feeling will not go away. And then about a year in, we started noticing things around the house are being misplaced and moved around. I swear, a perfect example, I had put my tablet, my reading tablet, on my nightstand because I read in bed, and then walk out of the room, and I come back in the room, and the tablet is in the middle of the floor, the middle of the room. Like, there's no way the shit could have just fell and landed in the middle of the fucking room. It would be next to the nightstand, right? So shit like that was happening around the house all the time. And in the beginning of that, we were blaming each other, like, oh, I know you're fucking with me, like that type of shit, right? But then it got to a point where I was like, okay, this, like, it obviously is not either one of us, because me and him would both be out of the house running errands or going out to dinner or whatever the fuck, and come back and shit has moved around. So we're like, what the fuck? So my boyfriend starts setting up cameras all over the apartment, right? Because he's thinking we have a frogger. Like, if you don't know what that is, it's pretty much someone that like secretly lives in your house and you don't know. If you ask me, I would much rather have a ghost in my house than a frogger. That is fucking terrifying. So we put up these cameras all around the apartment, but the shit is still happening. And it's happening like just outside of the camera view, or in rooms like where we don't have the cameras. Like our guest room, we didn't put a camera in there. The bathroom, we didn't put a camera in there for obvious reasons. So all of this that I just said that happened, this all happened within a span of like a year, right? So we're into our second year in this apartment. Now going into this next year, the activity just stops. But that next year was like the beginning of the end of that relationship. All we did that whole entire year was just argue and fight with each other. And it's not until one day that me and him are having a full-on screaming match. Me and him both are standing in the hallway facing each other, and to my left, to his right, is the bathroom. There's a hallway and then there's a bathroom. So me and him are screaming at each other. And the bathroom door slowly creaks open. Me and him both stop and look down the hallway. And we see a shadow. That's the only way that I can describe this. It didn't have like facial features or nothing like that. It looked like just this big tall shadow. It looked as tall as him. He was like 6'4". He was super. It looked as tall as him, and it was see-through, transparent, and it walks slowly towards us. And me and him are both frozen in fear. And we are both just watching this thing. I can't believe I just stood there. The thing walks down the hallway, comes right at us, walks in between us, walks into our living room, and then just dissipates. And me and him were left absolutely speechless. So that was actually the first time that I had ever seen an apparition. Not in San Diego, okay? But that will not be the last time. So me and my boyfriend end up breaking up and he moves out. But I end up staying in the apartment because there's 3 months left on the lease, and he had paid the rent 3 months in advance to help me out so I can save up some money to go find my own place. So 3 months free rent, fuck yeah, I'm staying. So this one night, being super impulsive, I randomly decide to get a tattoo. I have a friend that's an artist. I invite him over. I tell him, you can spend the night because you're going to be up a while, like fixing my tattoo. I had a tattoo on my foot that I wanted to get fixed. So it's time for bed. I put him on the couch. I'm in the bedroom. I wake up the next morning and this motherfucker literally looked like he has seen a ghost. He was sitting on my porch smoking a cigarette, rubbing his head, like he looked super stressed out. So I walk out there trying to be all funny and shit. I'm like, what's wrong with you, baby mama drama? That motherfucker had like 8 baby mamas, and no, I am not exaggerating. So he stayed stressed. This motherfucker, without missing a beat, looks me dead in my eyes and goes, there's something in your house. And I'm like, oh, what the fuck do you mean? Do you care to elaborate? He told me he had woken up to use the bathroom, and when he sat up on the couch, he looked down the hallway. So it's the hallway, and then at the end of the hallway, it's my bathroom. But like to the left of that is my bedroom. The room branches off. He said he had looked down the hallway and saw a big, tall shadow figure just standing in front of my door. Like, almost like it was guarding it, he said. He told me he was too scared to use the bathroom, that he had laid his ass back down, like praying for this thing to go away, right? He said he had stayed up for at least an hour just laying there. And he said every time he would look over, that thing was still there. He said that thing, it didn't move, it didn't go away, like it didn't give a fuck that I was looking at it, it stayed right in front of your door. He said that he had gotten the feeling that this thing was trying to intimidate him. So needless to say, he never came back. That scared the fuck out of him. We had to continue my tattoo at his place the next day. So shortly after all this, I end up having to, leave the apartment. I move in very briefly with my mother. So I'm staying with my mama, and one day my mom randomly walks into the room and is like, do you want to go to church with me? And I'm like, no, I don't. And it was a Brazilian church at that. Like, no shade or disrespect to Brazil, but we're not Brazilian. We don't speak Portuguese. Why she wanted to go to this church, I don't know. So after my mom took me on this long-ass guilt trip, I'm like, fine, okay, I'll go with you. So we make it to the church. My mama walks in first, and then I walk in. Tell me why, when I make eye contact with the pastor, the guy who's leading everything, he looks like he has just seen a ghost. Immediately, I am feeling very unsettled. Throughout the fucking service, he is locked in on me. He's preaching. He's just looking at me the whole time. Like there's not a fucking whole group of people there. I wanted to get up and leave, but I don't want to be rude and I don't want to piss off my mom, so I just sit through it. So the service ends. I'm the first one on my feet. Before I can make it down the aisle, he loudly, he was making it seem like he was talking to everybody, but he was talking to me. He was like, wait, we pray before we leave. We have to pray. So I take my ass to the prayer circle that's in the front of the church. He immediately puts his hands on my forehead like this. Excuse me, sir. I don't like people touching me, especially strangers. I believe in energy transfer and destiny swapping and shit. I believe in all that. And on top of that, I am a fucking germaphobe. And your hands are like one of the dirtiest parts of your body. Do not touch me. But like I said, I don't want to be rude, so I'm just sitting there. I don't want to piss my mom off. I'm just sitting there with his fucking his dirty ass hands on my fucking head. And he won't let go of my head. Mind you, there's at least 30 other people there. We're in a circle. It was a long ass prayer too. It was like 2 or 3 minutes long. The whole time he's got his sweaty ass hands on my forehead. So as soon as he says amen, immediately I'm already halfway out the door. But when I walk out, I notice my mama's not behind me. I notice she stayed behind to talk to this dude. 10 minutes later, my mama hops in the car, lights up a cigarette, and tells me, so I was talking to Pastor so-and-so, and he said that you brought something dark in with you. I beg your finest fucking pardon? She said that he said when I walked in that physically there was something big and dark following right behind me. Immediately, I'm like, that thing from the apartment has followed me. It's following me now. So I end up moving out of my mom's, and that's when I end up in San Diego in Lemon Grove. And that was the last time, not the first time, that was the last time that I had seen that thing in my little San Diego apartment guest house that I was renting, where it flew out of the window. I have a story time about that, but pretty much that thing showed itself one last time in my room, and it flew out of my window. That was 2019, and I haven't seen it since until last night. So last night, I had company over. I'm making dinner. Me and him are talking. I notice he keeps looking into my kitchen. And I make a joke. I'm like, don't worry, the food's going to be ready soon. Just a couple minutes. He's like, no, it's not that. I keep catching something in the corner of my eye in your kitchen. Something dark. Immediately, when he said that, something tall and dark, I'm like, oh, shit, it's back. Right after I say that to him, like, oh, shit, it's back, I'm about to tell him a story. The fucking tongs that were sitting on my stove fly off of the stove right in front of me and him. I had my tongs just like this. When I cook, I keep my utensils right in the middle like this. There's no way that this could have just fell or like slipped off like that. There's like even a little like dip here too. There's no way that thing just slipped off. That shit flew off of the stove. Flew off in front of us. My time is up, y'all, but now I'm dealing with that. That is what I'll be dealing with. What do y'all think though? Do I have a protector? Am I haunted? Do I got a little ghost stalker?
We moved to the country 4 years ago into a house that was built in 1999, which is not very old in house years. A couple of months after moving in, we started remodeling, which of course is when everything started. I started hearing footsteps, specifically when I was in the basement. I would hear them above me when no one was home. And then the lights started flickering. But both of these things we just kind of played off as like whatever. But then I saw the shadow people. One night my husband and I were in bed watching TV with our bedroom door open. He was asleep, but I was still awake. Something from the corner of my eye caught my attention, and I looked out through the open bedroom door. And peeking around the corner of the hallway was a shadow. A tall, thin, human-looking shadow. And the hallway was completely dark, and this shadow was darker than the dark. The shadow was basically coming through the wall. I saw it for a split second, and then it was gone. About 3 weeks later, same situation. We're in bed watching TV, my husband's asleep, and I'm still awake. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed movement. And there was another shadow figure, except for this time, this one was shorter and had a more feminine figure. We finished the remodel and really have not had any incidents since. Except for a couple months after these incidents, we went to a neighbor's house for a party. We were pretty new at this time, and we were chatting with an older guy who was asking us whereabouts we lived. And we were describing, like, between what roads and yada yada. And he says, oh, you live across the street from the murder property. And it turns out that this guy was a retired detective who had worked this case. He then proceeds to tell us that in 1983, an older couple was murdered across the street. They owned a piece of property that they put an old school bus on and used that as like a summer vacation place. He had been left in the road and she had been left on the bus, and their bodies had been mutilated. Now, our house had not been built at the time of the murders, but it was a really interesting history. And this case remains unsolved to this day. Now, a couple of months after we learned this history, I was listening to a paranormal podcast, and they were talking about how a ghost had visited somebody in their dreams and helped solve a murder. And that's when it hit me. Could these shadow people have been this couple from across the street? So it took me a while, but I did finally find a photo of both of them. He was tall and thin, and she was short and had a womanly figure.
So you know that shadow person that you may or may not have seen in the corner of your room? Because a lot of times they move so fast that you're not even sure what you saw. Did you know that every culture has a different explanation as to what these shadow people are? These are the top 3. In the Middle East, they're considered jinns in the shadow form. They're not always bad, but they're also not human-friendly either. Like, they don't like us. A lot of people report getting paralyzed and hearing whispers, like, in their ear as they're trying to sleep. They mainly just kind of stand there and watch. A lot of people will, before entering a dark room, will say the word Bismillah in order to protect themselves from a potential jinn, like, hiding in the darkness. Now, in the Western culture, they call it the Hat Man. A lot of people associate seeing the Hat Man with feeling dread, or like just sadness, or feeling like you're being watched. Many people from across the world, even though they don't speak the same language, all describe seeing the same exact man with a hat. And in Japan, they call the same black shadow or whatever shadow people that you see coming across, they call it the black monk. They describe it as like a heavyweight bald man with no face. He will typically sit on your chest, not allowing you to move, and become paralyzed. A lot of people say that after they see him, a lot of bad luck and just like bad negativity surrounds them. Let me know if you guys want a part 2.
My friend, have you heard of the shadow people? The indigenous Choctaw people of America speak of this mythical creature known as the Nalusa Falaya, an incredibly tall, shadowy figure that can emerge out of shadows and melt back into them. It's said that the Nalusa Falaya targets people wandering out at night. It attempts to consume their souls or infect them. But the thing is, if a Nalusa Falaya infects you, you won't even realize it. You won't even have memory of it. You'll just become more and more evil over time. The being itself reminds me a lot of the Slender Man creature. Maybe they're one and the same.
I'm sure that by now we have all encountered a shadow person. You know, that little dark thing that just jets across the room when it thinks that you're not paying attention, or when you unexpectedly walk into a room and see something kind of like hide in the closet. I feel like we've all seen it. These are the top 3 types of shadow people and what it means when you encounter them. Number 1 is the Watcher. They look very human-like, kind of like humanoids. You'll see them lurking in the corners of the room. You can pretty much make out like their shadow outline. They literally just want to feed off of your fear and they want to watch you, hence the Watcher. They're not violent, but the more they watch you, the weaker and more anxious you will feel. Number 2 is the Crawler. They're very low to the ground and their movements look kind of like spider-like as they glide across the floor. Their main purpose is to drain your energy. They typically will appear after a person has passed away or whenever like something horrific and tragic has happened in your family. And number 3, the Mimic. They want to impersonate you. They want to essentially be able to attach themselves to you, whether it's through your dreams or in the physical world. There's a bunch more, so let me know if you guys want a part 2.